Hey friends, it's Laura. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing amazing. Today is going to be a plant chore bonanza. I'm going to be getting all of these Hoyas onto trellises, which sounds like a big job, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I've found that the Hoyas that I have added to trellises, which is my Crimson Princess and my Crimson Queen and my Australis Lisa, since adding them onto trellises, they have put out a lot of aerial roots, which I think is a good sign. There's no peduncles or other growth, but the aerial roots I think are a good sign. I would love more of my Hoyas to bloom. That is kind of my goal nowadays. So I'm gonna put them on trellises. And to make this video a little bit more interesting, I did ask for questions on Instagram for me to answer during this video. So I've got a bunch of really good questions that people, I guess, are curious about, and I'm going to answer them as I go. That sounds like a lot to do at the same time, but I'm gonna try my best. So if that sounds interesting, let's get going. Maybe you have some plant chores, we can do them at the same time. I'm gonna just start getting set up here. The trellises I'm using, my husband made for me, which I'm really excited about. The trellises I've used up till now, some of them were homemade, some of them were from Mossify. They're all wonderful, but I really wanted like small, some of these are really small. I wanted small round trellises. I have kind of a vision of all my Hoyas just similar shapes and similar sizes, so that you can really just focus on the leaves and the difference in the leaves instead of sort of these long trailing things that kind of take over my cabinet, which is beautiful too, but I have a limit of space. So anyway, I had a very specific thing that I was looking for, and my husband actually very nicely made a trellis outside for my clematis plant to climb up the fence anyway, and to not waste all of the extra wire, he offered to make these trellises. So that's very exciting. That is what I'm using. These are galvanized steel, which apparently is safe for plants. I hope that it's safe. I used copper wire on the other ones that I made for myself, and copper, I guess, is really good for plants. So anyway, that's what I'm doing today. I'm gonna get set up here, and the first question, and actually several people asked like the same question along the same lines, and that is, what is your favorite plant in your collection and what is your least favorite plant in your collection? Which is a good question. I feel like my favorite plant changes a lot, but I would say right now my favorite plant is my Alocasia cuprea, because it just put out a new leaf and it's absolutely stunning, and I've shown it in many videos. I'm not gonna go grab it, but it's my Alocasia cuprea. My least favorite plant in my collection right now, I would say, is my Syngonium albo, and that is because it gets thrips constantly. I don't know what it is about Syngonium. I find in my house the Syngoniums just get thrips instantly. I've had a pink Syngonium and I've had this albo. I had like a white butterfly Syngonium, like the really common Syngoniums that you see a lot at grocery stores. I've had that one, and all of them got thrips. I didn't really bother saving the pink one and the white butterfly one, but I did really want to save the albo, like the variegated albo one. So I have always saved it. I've cut off all the infested leaves, treated it, and it does come back. Like, it comes back really quickly when you snip off the infested leaves, but it just always has thrips, and I find Syngoniums in general always have thrips in my house, and I don't know what that's about, because I haven't really heard other people talk about that, but for that reason, it's my least favorite. It's really beautiful when it's big and thriving, but that just doesn't last very long, I find, in my house. So that's my least favorite right now. My favorite though, yeah, I said it's Alocasia cuprea, but that changes a lot. That changes, it shifts. Now, this Hoya, this is my Hoya publicalis Purple Hawaiian, which I learned after my last Hoya tour collection, whatever, I was talking about this and I was like, it's called Purple Hawaiian because the new leaves look dark, almost purple. And people corrected me and I actually really appreciate that. It's called Purple Hawaiian because the blooms are purple. And that seems really obvious to me now, and I'm really glad I learned that because that's really obvious. And it's never bloomed before, so I never put that together. Now I'm really excited for it to bloom. I looked up the blooms and they are pretty out there looking, very exciting. Anyway, this Hoya, I am adding a trellis, but I'm also putting it in this beautiful pot. Let's all look at it. It's clouds with like a sun coming above the clouds, and I made this pot. I'm doing pottery. It doesn't have a drainage hole though. So what I'm gonna do is cut a nursery pot so that it fits in there, and hopefully the roots on Hoyas are not usually that deep, so hopefully that will be fine and it will just live in that cute little pot that I made. And this is a good way to convert things that like aren't meant to be plant pot. I didn't mean for this to be a plant pot, but if you have like a candle holder or some other cute little vessel that you found that you would like to be a plant pot, but it doesn't have drainage holes, obviously you can try and drill drainage holes, but that doesn't always work. But you can always just cut a nursery pot so that it fits in there, and then you're good to go. This though seems very small for this plant. This plant has this huge runner going out, which also has inspired me to add the trellises, because I find, well, I have in my research learned that Hoyas put out these vines and then fill them in, and that actually, there's a huge long vine on my Hoya australis, like longer than this, and it is kind of unsightly, and I was gonna trim it off, but I was patient because I know leaves can fill in, and there are leaves coming in. So that is true. If you get these long runners, let them grow in. And actually there is a tiny little leaf coming in there. You probably can't see. It is so tiny. I can barely see it. Good thing I'm wearing my glasses. Point is, if you get really long runners, leave them on there because they just want to grow. Okay, so we'll actually have to see how the roots are on this one. If they're too big, we're gonna have to make a new plan. They look pretty big. Okay, new plan. This guy's gonna stay in here. This pot will be for one of the other Hoyas. Okay. Too bad though. I don't know why I wanted this one in there, but I just thought it would look pretty. I'm sure all of them will look pretty, including this new one. Maybe you are eyeing this new Hoya. This is my newest Hoya. I'm gonna talk about it in a second. Okay, so ignore everything I said about the pot. This one will probably be one of the bigger trellises. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put these guys in there. So cute. And I'm gonna try not to add too many twist ties. I'm gonna just try and like wind it around. Twist ties are useful, but not super pretty. And because this is going in the cabinet, I have found that some things grow mold in the cabinet. I tried putting a coir pole in there. It grew mold like almost immediately, and I would assume the paper that are like on twist ties would also grow mold. Just what I'm thinking. Okay, the next question is, do you get thrips on your plants? And if so, how do you deal with thrips? A few people ask that question. And do I get thrips? Yes, I get thrips all the time. Like all the time, especially I find in spring, although also in fall, kind of like when seasons change. I don't know what that's about. I find that thrips are the most common pest in my collection, in my house. Thrips in my collection of pests. Thrips are the most common plant. Thrips are the most common pest in my home. That is what I'm trying to say. And I actually have made a whole video on how I battle thrips. I will link that somewhere. I think it pops up here. I will link that. And actually in that video, there's like real footage of thrips crawling all over. I believe it was my ficus ruby. And I did save it, like that plant is still alive. And it was literally crawling with thrips. So if you don't like watching bugs, don't watch that video because it's got some real footage. And the way I handle thrips is I mean, you should watch that video because I go more in detail, but I mix up a solution of neem oil, and I just order neem oil online, or I've also found it at my health food store, but it can be any neem oil as long as it's 100% neem oil. And I mix a tablespoon of that, a tablespoon of dish soap, and then about a liter of water. Like usually a spray bottle is about a liter, depending on what spray bottle you have, of course, but I usually just reuse a spray bottle that I have, you know, from something else. Obviously you can buy spray bottles, but approximately a liter of water, and you shake it up really well so it's all combined, and then spray down your plants, and like spray them down to the point where every single part of the plant is covered with sudsy solution. Like you'll be able to, because it's sudsy, you can kind of see where it is. You want the whole plant covered in that. You don't want to just sort of like mist it on. So I will usually do that outside or in the bathtub so that I can just like get it everywhere. It's non-toxic because it's dish soap. Neem oil actually, apparently you can like add it to your skincare or hair care, which I believe is why it's at the health food store. I've never done that. It doesn't smell very good in my opinion, but it's non-toxic, which is a bonus. So I guess you could just spray it on your plant on the shelf, but it would add oil to whatever furniture or anything is around. So I do it outside, but not because it's non-toxic, just to reduce the mess. And I do that, I repeat that like once a week, and it works. So I also find that it is protective, so it helps reduce like oncoming infestations. I also use the Sacred Elements leaf tonic. I use that though more as like nutrient adding and less pest prevention, just because, I mean, it does have a pest prevention aspect to it, but I like to just get in there with my own little solution for like actual pest. Like if there's already pests, I spray with my neem oil solution. If there isn't pests, I spray with the leaf tonic, if that makes sense. That's sort of like I would call that more of a protector, whereas the full-on neem solution is like treatment, if that makes sense. So that's what I do. But yes, I definitely do get thrips quite a bit, and more than other pests. I think I've had, well, which is another question, but I have had mites, and I think everyone gets mites. It's just like, mites just are everywhere, but that's another question. But I thought I got spider mites one time on my alocasia black velvet. But when I think back, I don't actually think it was spider mites. I think it was some other bug, because I've heard people get spider mites and like, it is so annoying to deal with, and it like takes over their life and everything. And that wasn't that. I sprayed it down with the neem oil and then they were gone. So either they were just very weak spider mites, or my solution is just that good, or they weren't spider mites at all. Okay, first one done. It's definitely more leaves on this side. And obviously the first time you add a plant to a trellis, it looks kind of unbalanced, but the plant sort of grows into it. It adapts. The really long runner is like going around. So hopefully that's okay. So I guess this one is just going back into this cover pot. That's why I wanted to put this in the cute pottery. I don't love this. This is from a thrift store, but I think like, yeah, it has like a Dollarama sticker originally. I got it from a thrift store because I was desperate. This was when I first really started getting lots of cover pots, and I thought it was cute, but I don't love it. It's kind of, I mean, it's not that bad. I could paint it. Maybe I should paint it. Anyway. So next plant, I really do want to put a plant in this pot. This one maybe will have shallower roots. We'll see. We'll just try until we find one. There's no roots coming out the bottom. Okay, that was the first question. Okay, the next question is, what is the best plant in your collection? Oh yes, this will do quite well. What is the best plant in your collection, both for aesthetics and for air quality? And I thought that was such a good question, and I don't know the answer. I know that, okay, well, I think the whole idea that plants like purify the air is obviously true to an extent, but it doesn't mean that people with plants like have a drastically improved air quality in their home. Like, I mean, just based on how I feel like the plants make the air clean, but according to actual scientific research, I believe it was NASA, said, you know, you would have to have like hundreds of plants, which I guess I do. Maybe it was thousands. It was more plants than I have. I don't know. This is not a very scientific explanation. But the point is, they, I think, studied peace lilies because people love peace lilies, and those have been believed to be very air purifying. And yes, they purify air, but for it to actually make a difference in your home, you would need more than I have. So I guess I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know which plant would be the most air purifying. I have heard peace lilies are the best, but I personally don't love peace lilies, so I don't actually have any peace lilies. Maybe like ficuses would be really air purifying because those are actual trees. So yeah, I guess I probably didn't need to share this question since I don't know the answer. If you know the answer, like what typical houseplant is the most air purifying, please let me know. I probably could have researched it, but I don't know. Sometimes I find with so many people like having houseplant vlogs and blogs and all those things, I mean, myself included, it's sometimes hard to find accurate information because a lot of us are just sharing like our experience. And I don't know how you would know whether a plant is purifying your air just by experience. So anyway, okay, so this fits in there. Hoyas have pretty shallow roots, and I have heard, again, according to my research, I have read that Hoyas like to be root bound and are more likely to bloom if they are root bound. So this one had pretty shallow roots, and now it will be even more root bound, although even like half of this is still full of soil that wasn't even touched by the roots. So I'm not really, it's okay. It's okay that I'm doing this. So it's going in there. Okay, I'm back, and while I'm up, I'm just gonna show you this pot up close because I'm really proud of it. That's the back. So I've been taking pottery classes. I've been really enjoying it. I am an art teacher, so I'm teaching pottery, simpler pottery than this, but because I'm teaching pottery, I had to brush up on my skills. I had a little bit of pottery knowledge, but not a ton. And so I've been really enjoying the class, just making lots of plant pots and mugs and learning lots of skills. It's fun to just do a new hobby. Obviously my plants are like my main hobby, but it's nice to have other hobbies. So anyways, I'm proud of this guy. So next question. Do you get soil mites? And if so, how do you treat them? First of all, yes, I do get soil mites. I think, I mean, this might be not true. I think that anyone with plants gets soil mites. I think it's just part of having pots of dirt in your house. So if someone says they don't get soil mites, I mean, I guess maybe if you're not growing in soil, if you're growing in like purely leca or hydroponics, then maybe you don't get soil mites. But so yes, I do get soil mites. And how do I deal? I do put those yellow sticky things in pots that have like a lot of soil mites. But in general, I find that the soil mites are seasonal, kind of like fruit flies. They come and they're super annoying, and you see them everywhere and you think, oh my goodness, these are taking over my collection. They don't I mean, I could be wrong. Okay, this one is a little bit off. Slightly longer on one side, which is not, I should trim that, but for now, I should trim that, but for now I'll just use a different one. And maybe I've misspoke. Like, what I think of soil mites are those little tiny bugs that are everywhere for a while and then are gone and are kind of like fruit flies. And maybe I'm just thinking of fruit flies. But if what I'm talking about are soil mites, which is what you're asking me about, I don't find that they actually do any damage to your plants. Like, they live in the soil and are annoying and unsightly, but I don't think they're actually doing any damage, at least not that I've noticed. I've never even noticed them being on the plants. They're just in the soil, probably laying eggs. I don't know that for sure though. I don't know why else they'd be in the soil. Maybe they eat something in the soil. I'm not an expert on soil mites, but I do get little flying bugs in my soil, and I put those yellow sticky things that you can get. I put those in the plants if it's really bad. But other than that, I kind of just wait it out. I find that they're here for about a month, usually in the spring or summer, kind of like fruit flies. They're here for about a month and then they just disappear. And maybe I'm just lucky. So maybe if you're asking me, maybe you have a really big problem with soil mites and that was a terrible answer. But if you're just encountering them and then they're gone, no harm done. Yes, it's annoying. Of course it's annoying. Like, it's gross. And I kind of feel self-conscious if someone comes over and there's literally like fruit flies everywhere or these mites. But it's kind of just part of having plants. I think too, I mean, being a gardener, there's pests in the garden and they're annoying and they're gross, but some of them are helping and then some of them are just part of nature. And I'm not trying to be too philosophical, but I mean, you're growing plants in soil in your house, probably there's going to be bugs and it's okay. This looks adorable in my opinion, and I love that it showcases the pot very nicely. I love it. This is my Hoya carnosa, by the way. And this I just got as a little cutting and it is doing really well. Okay. Next plant is my Hoya Wyetii. This is just gonna stay in the same pot. Not be too, maybe I can put this one in the pot because this uneven one, because it can go like between the nursery pot and there, it can go like this and be more secure maybe. I like this one because this trellis because it's a little bit larger. I might just have to go get my snippers and snip it. Although this seems better. Maybe because it's a taller pot, it's better. Anyway, next question. What was your very first plant? Okay, that's a cute question. So I definitely have had different plants, you know, over my life. I've definitely was a gardener first before I got into houseplants. I've basically always enjoyed gardening. Not that I always had the opportunity to be gardening, but whenever I could, I have had a garden. And my husband and I were visiting his friend who was also a gardener, but was also into propagating some house plants and just propagating like garden plants as well, but propagating them indoors to eventually put them outdoors. And he was propagating a plant called iresine, I-R-E-S-I-N-E. I think that also goes by bloodleaf. I think it also goes by, there's something to do with like meat. It was like not a meat plant, but anyway, iresine is the name that I knew it as, and it is like red with hot pink veining. And he was propagating that. I don't even know why. He was just propagating for fun, I think. And so he just gave us one, and I brought it home. And I grew it outdoors, but then I tried to bring it indoors. And that plant, if you've ever seen that plant, when it's thirsty, will like literally look dead. I mean, similar to other common houseplants, it will just look dead and dramatic. And I thought I killed it. And then I watered it and it came back and it was growing really, really well. And I propagated it. That was the first time I had ever propagated a plant, but I had seen, you know, that it was possible. And that just really got me hooked. And since then, the Iracine I actually learned grows way better outside. Like I was trying to force it to grow inside because I was obsessed with it. But it's an outdoor plant, so I no longer have it inside. I must have nicked something. This has a little tiny drop of sap coming off. Must have somehow nicked a new leaf or something. Anyway. So that was my very first plant, and then that was like, it was definitely before the pandemic, but I would say, and then before the pandemic I also got so after that Iracine plant that I fell in love with, I got a Boston fern and a pearls and jade pothos, and I got those just because I thought they were pretty and because I was, you know, kind of getting more into houseplants. And the Boston fern, of course, did terribly in my house. But the pearls and jade pothos I still have. It's in my bedroom. I still love it. And that was definitely before the pandemic, those plants. But during the pandemic, I would say I got more into plants. But so the Iracine definitely just taught me to grow plants inside. And then those, I would put the Boston fern and the pearls and jade pothos as like my second and third plants, because those were also fairly important. Okay, adorable. I think this looks so cute. Okay, I have 2 more. Okay, and I have 2 more questions, so that's perfect. So the next Hoya I'm doing is my Hoya compacta, Hoya carnosa compacta. I think this will look quite interesting on a trellis. I don't know, maybe this more round one would look better. So I don't want to take away from the beauty of this plant. My husband also made me this heart-shaped one. He also made this heart-shaped one, which I think is really cute, but I don't know, I kind of just have this vision of them all being similar. So I'm not going to use that this time, I don't think. Okay, so the question is, do you have or do you want kids? Yes. I have kids. I have 2 teenage boys. They're great. I'm not going to talk about them a lot because, I don't know, I don't really know that they'd want me to. Oh, okay, this looks cute. And it kind of just holds itself up. So, yes, I have 2 kids and they are wonderful. They kind of like plants a little bit. My older one kind of learning about plants. My younger one has a few houseplants in his room. And that's all I'm going to say about them. I don't want to, you know, I want to respect their privacy. But they're great. I'm trying to wind this without, I really hope I don't crack it. These leaves are just so like, they just want to connect. This is really satisfying to put this on a trellis. So this, honestly, I probably could have used a larger trellis. But this is gonna look really cool because it's gonna be really like full. Anyways, I might have to get a larger one. Mosfet has some really nice larger ones. I just didn't think I would need one yet. But I've been eyeing them. I really love the one that I have used for my Crimson Queen. It kind of is like a Tetris shape. It's like an uneven, well, I guess it is a Tetris shape, but it looks, it doesn't, I was first unsure about a Tetris shape for plants, but it just looks cool. It doesn't necessarily make you think of Tetris, but that is the shape. But it's big. That's why I like it. The Crimson Queen definitely needed a big one. Okay, this little guy, there we go. This is very satisfying to wind. Okay, okay, that looks, I feel like this is the best one yet. I feel like it looks really cool. It almost looks fake. This pot needs a wash. Okay, yay. Cool, okay. Last but definitely not least is my new Hoya macrophila. And this plant, if you follow me on Instagram, you will know that I found this at Canadian Tire for $5.99, which I don't know. I've eyed this plant online, but always whenever I've seen it for sale, it was definitely, like, in my opinion, too expensive. Not too expensive, but out of my budget. I am definitely a new Hoya person. I have not bought like $200 Hoyas. I don't know that I ever will. But when I've seen photos of this plant, I definitely thought it was beautiful. It has like the pink margins. It has the super veiny, like, to touch this plant, it's very thick and veiny. And so I definitely eyed it and thought, wow, that's a beautiful plant, but never was that motivated to spend a lot of money on it. But for $5.99, I will give it a try for sure. So anyway, and there's actually 3 plants in the pot. I repotted it and gave it a really good spray for pests and everything. And there was like a little slug in the pot, so I'm glad I repotted it. And the 3 plants were all in those little like plugs, like those net plugs. So I removed those. Hopefully that will make it happy. But the fact that there's 3 plants in it means that it will fill in hopefully quickly. I mean, Hoyas are always kind of a gamble as to how quickly they're gonna grow, but seemed good. Okay, so this is not winding as easily as this is really. Don't crack. Okay, we're good. We're good. I think that might be all that I do. Okay, last question, sorry. How many pets do you have? Okay, that's a cute question to end on. So I have 2 dogs, and they are usually around, I think they're sunning themselves on my deck. The second part of the question is, how many pets do you have and can we see them? So since it's the end of the video anyway, well, not the end of the video, the end of the, sorry. Okay, this is what I was scared of happening. So I accidentally knocked off a little tiny leaf. It's okay, but I should have just, when I said I was done, I should have just let it be. So this one's done. I'm gonna go get my doggies. They're probably sleeping, but they're sweethearts. I'm gonna go grab them. Okay, so I found Spocky outside. This is Spock, and he's named Spock because he has big ears, if you know Star Trek. And Spocky is such a sweetie. He had a haircut recently. He usually has really beautiful long hair, but since he gets very hot in the summer, I gave him a haircut and he actually seems to like it. He was out sunning himself on the deck. If you have Chihuahuas, you know that Chihuahuas just like love sunning themselves so much. And Spocky is a rescue. He's a very fearful dog, which I feel really bad for him. He does not like when people come over. He doesn't like new people at all, but he loves us, which I think is common with rescue dogs. Like, they just don't necessarily trust everyone, but they love their people. And he's such a good doggy. He's like, I would say 13. He's pretty old now. He's starting to get quite a bit of white. He always had white, but he's getting more now that he's old. Okay, he's wanting to go sun himself. He's so warm because he was sunning himself on the deck. So this is my doggy number 1, Spock. This is Tater. His full name is Tater Tot. And he was only 8 months old, but he's also a rescue, but we've had him since he was basically a puppy. So he's not really scared of people. He's super friendly. He's kind of yappy, but he's super friendly, and he also likes sunning himself on the deck. That's one of his main hobbies, but he's super cuddly. Like, I find people think Chihuahuas are so crazy, but he's just so cuddly. He's like a little teddy bear, and he's so sweet. And him and Spock are best friends, which is honestly makes me so happy. They're both rescues from totally different places, but they are best friends and they're always snuggling. So anyway, this is my second little doggy Tater, and he's a sweetheart. Anyway, that is the end of this plant tour video. Hopefully you enjoyed all my Q&A and my Hoya trellising, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope your plants are thriving, and hope to see you in my next video. Bye.